We are an inclusive, non-creedal fellowship that works for a just community and fosters a lifelong search for personal spiritual fulfillment. Here at UUCLC, we value making a difference in ourselves, our community, and even in the world. I'm Chris Cleveland, and I'm pleased to be your service leader this morning. Reverend Kathy Schmitz will deliver our sermon called Not Such a Sure Thing. At each moment, there are infinite number of possible futures. While some are more likely than others, we need to be careful thinking that any one future is a sure thing. You may also, after the service, be interested in viewing a short dialogue called Sure Thing. And the YouTube links for that are in the Sunday service bulletin or on our website, lakecountyuu.org. But first, we have some announcements. This service is being recorded, except for the joys and concerns and the discussion following the service. Please stay muted unless you are asked to unmute. And be sure to check that Sunday service bulletin attached to your email with the link for this service. There are many activities and groups meeting on Zoom, but drum roll, please. Our Meditation for All group is going to meet in person at church tomorrow from 6 to 7. Everybody is welcome, even those who have never been meditating before. You must wear a KN95 mask and social distance, regardless of your vaccination status. It's a good way to get to know others in person, which is a rare thing these days. And most people sit in chairs when they meditate at this group, but you're welcome to bring a mat or a pillow and use the floor. And another drum roll, please. Our Graceful Aging discussion group will also begin meeting in person in a week and a half on Wednesday, October 6th from 1 to 2:30 in the social hall. Information for both of these groups are in the Sunday service bulletin. If you're interested in receiving our bulletin or learning more about us, please send an email to office@lakecountyuu.org or leave your email in the chat so we can contact you. And today at 3 o'clock is the monthly African American Film Festival, which will show Dirt and Deeds in Mississippi and then discuss the film. It's held at the MLK Center in Mount Dora. And the address will be in the chat box soon. That's 803 Florida Avenue. And that's held every fourth Sunday at 3 o'clock by one of our members, runs that for the library. Next week, there is no UUCLC service. So if you have missed a service, you might want to watch one of our Zoom services on our YouTube channel, which is in the Sunday bulletin. And on October 10th, we will be honoring Indigenous Peoples Day by hosting Dr. Colette Yellowrobe from the Cheyenne tribe. And be sure to join us for that service. Are there any other announcements today? Nobody has any announcements? Okay. Well, welcome. If you are visiting today and are comfortable doing so, please wave your hand, and when you are called on, you can unmute and introduce yourself and tell us what brought you here today. Are there any visitors today that would like to meet us? Introduce yourself. Okay.
Don't see any hands, Chris.
Thank you. All right. Well, I'm pleased to announce the return of Reverend Kathy Schmitz, who will speak to us once a month for the rest of this year. She describes herself as an eco-humanist, strongly influenced by Buddhist practice and teaching. Her ministry is one of empowering individuals and communities to expand and fulfill their potential, particularly with regard to creating a more peaceful, just, and sustainable world for all of Earth's inhabitants. She most recently served as the senior minister for 8 years at the First Unitarian Church of Orlando. We are so pleased to have you back, Reverend Kathy. I will open today with words by Reverend Scott Taylor. As so much closed, we were opened. Normal was taken, but it was also turned inside out. Very little is inevitable. Most of it is a choice. This is what we have learned. So now the question comes, do we really want to go back? We can weave a new world, friends. The straw can be spun into gold. A door has swung wide with possibility trying to pull us through. And what of today? Might it be our first step? Our chalice lighting today is by Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark, maybe, from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Each Sunday, we make time for those who wish to offer a joy or concern. This portion of our service will not be recorded. Let us relax, breathe, and bask in the warmth of our community as we reflect on our gratitudes. Take a deep breath and relax. Let us remember what we aspire to be by reciting our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. It is our practice to give generously to this church, as we are able and keeping in mind both its meaning in our lives and its impact on the world. We are thankful for all who provide financial support for UUCLC. And in order to continue our services until our eventual return, which we hope is soon, we ask for whatever financial support you can provide. There are multiple ways to do this, including clicking on the link in the chat box right now. Thank you for your donation today. Let's sing together, muted, just as long as I have breath.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Good morning. It is great to be back with you again, virtually. I am virtually in your sanctuary, thanks to an image sent to me. I'm physically up in Massachusetts today, though. I'd like to start this morning by telling you a story, then giving you a moment of reflection, and then we'll dive into the sermon. Now, the story I'd like to tell you, which I've labeled I Can Think, is a work of historical fiction, by which I mean that something similar to this may or may not have once happened in my family. So take yourself to a 6th grade classroom where 2 children are having a problem. Bobby said something that Elise thought was mean. She thought he was a jerk. I don't know what was going on before that. I don't even know what Bobby said, but I do know what Elise did next. But before I tell you what Elise did next, let me give you a moment to think. What do you think she did? What would you do if someone said something mean to you? I'm imagining there are lots of ideas. Here's what Elise did do. She punched Bobby. I don't know what happened to Bobby after that. I do know what happened to Elise. Her mother found her sitting in the principal's office. When asked what happened, Elise explained, Bobby was mean to me, so I had to punch him. Note the word had. She had to punch him. The principal reminded Elise and her mom that hitting was not okay in their school. She said there would have to be consequences. Was it detention or suspension? I'm not sure. She also said there was another possibility. Elise's mom could take Elise to talk to someone about why hitting was a problem and what some other choices might be. A therapist. Elise and her mom chose this option. After Elise had gone to talk to the therapist about 6 times, her mom asked her whether she had learned anything. Not much, said Elise, just that when Bobby says something mean, I can think before I punch him. Not much, thought Elise's mom. Not much. If only everyone knew that after something happens, we can think before we act. All our lives, we find ourselves in moments when the next thing is not a sure thing. All our lives, we make choices about what we will feel and what we will do. In that moment of thought, maybe Elise could have chosen to walk away. Maybe she could have chosen to say, Bobby, I don't like it when you say mean things. You might have some other ideas. There were so many possibilities, right? Let's suppose she had chosen to say, Bobby, I don't like it when you say mean things. Then it would have been Bobby's turn. What would he choose? Again, so many choices, right? He could have been even more mean, or he could have said he was sorry, or he could have turned and walked away. There were so many possibilities. Here's the thing. Even if Elise had made a good and helpful choice, she could not be sure that Bobby would. Elise couldn't make Bobby do anything. All she could do was make a choice, hopefully a good choice, maybe a choice that at least made it possible for Bobby to make a good choice too. Every moment gives us possibilities. Usually we can figure out pretty quickly what we will do next. It hardly seems like we're thinking at all. Our brains are fast that way. But we need to remember that when something happens, there is nothing that we have to do. And there are many things that we could do. So here's my hope. In each moment, I can make choices, we can make choices, you can make choices that make the next moment better, and the moment after that, and the one after that. And I hope that my choices and your choices and our choices will help stories to have more good and happy endings. As we ponder our fabulous choice-making abilities, I'd like to invite you to just a moment of reflection as we have a focus on our breath and consider all the possibilities. So, if you will, I invite you to breathe. Breathe slowly. Breathe deeply. Relax your body. Relax your mind. Relax your body, your mind, your spirit. Be here. Be in this moment. Be here in this moment. Be here in this moment and open your heart. Open your heart with compassion to those among us who carry burdens this morning. Open your heart with love for the wonders of the world and opportunities to learn and to grow. Open your heart with gratitude for the blessings that abound. Know that you have a choice to open your heart to life or to close it, to open your heart to life's possibilities or to reject them. Know that you have a choice and open your heart as we take 3 more breaths together. Open your hearts. Know what is possible. Open your heart. There are so many ways a moment can unfold. When I realized that I wanted to talk to you today about the amazing number of possibilities that reside in each moment, I knew I would need to tell you about the short play, Sure Thing by David Ives. It's the one that Christy mentioned a few minutes ago. I stumbled upon the play at an arts event about 25 years ago, and it fascinated me, and I found myself thinking about it again and again. But later, I couldn't remember the name of the skit or the playwright or even the name of the group that performed it. All I knew was that it was inspired by the music of Philip Glass. Philip Glass is a contemporary American composer who's known for his minimalistic and repeating style of music. He's the composer of the music that was at the beginning of our service today. A few years after I first saw the play, I was at a Unitarian Universalist summer camp, and the staff had a talent show where they performed that same skit, and I was delighted. And this time, with a little more information and more advanced internet, I was able to find it online. There are lots of versions of the skit available now online. It's about a 10-minute skit. And some of you might have checked out the links that accompanied the service description. You can go back and do that later if you find yourself intrigued. It was, like Philip Glass's music, very simple and minimalistic. It's about two people who meet in a coffee shop and all the various ways that their conversation could go. Let me give you just a little flavor of how it happens. As the scene opens, Bill walks into a coffee shop and he sees Betty sitting at a table at which there is an empty chair. Bill says, "Excuse me, is this chair taken?" "Yes, it is." "Oh, sorry." "Sure thing." At that point, a bell rings and the scene resets. Again, "Excuse me, is this chair taken?" "No, but I'm expecting someone any moment." "Oh, thanks anyway." "Sure thing." A bell. "Is this seat taken?" "No, it's not." "Would you mind if I sit here?" "Yes, I would." Oh, a bell. "Is this chair taken?" "No, it's not." "Would you mind if I sit here?" "No, go ahead." Once Bill is seated at the table, the pattern continues with the conversation inching forward and at times popping back a few lines to give us a hint of the many ways that this simple interaction could unfold. They discuss the book Betty is reading, where Bill went to school, and their opinions of Woody Allen movies. Just a simple interaction in so many directions it could take. For me, the skit is a dramatic reminder of the great varieties of ways that any moment can unfold. So often we go through our lives with an energy of habit or custom, the way we've always done it. We see only one possible outcome, only one possible way that a situation might unfold. And yet, how many possible responses are there to an opening line? I speak to you and you respond. How many people are we here? That many possibilities. I speak and there are all these possible different reactions, different responses just here in this service. And of course, there are more. Not long after I learned about that skit and saw it for the first time, I was working as a student chaplain in a hospital. As part of the program, I gathered every day with other student chaplains to review our experiences. Together, we analyzed our interactions with patients and hospital staff and considered how we might handle them differently. How often do any of us, can reconsider our words and later think of what we wish we had said in a given situation, right? At the end of the program, I wrote a skit for our group in the style of Sure Thing. about our summer in the hospital together. I tried to capture moments like when we said incredibly stupid things to dying patients, or the moments we held back from what we really wanted to say to an insensitive staff member or troubling family member. When you walk into a hospital room to visit a patient you've never met before, there are so many ways that moment can unfold. Your heart may be broken, or your anger peaked, your funny bone tickled, or your soul inspired. So many ways a moment can unfold. Over the years, I've thought about writing a little version of the skit for congregational life. You know what I mean. I would try to capture the charm of the way one greets a guest, or the challenges of running a committee meeting. The number of ways that announcements could go astray, the ways that people pull together to make things happen when challenges arise. Or now we could add all the ways things unfold on Zoom. I've thought about writing that skit, and I decided I'd probably get myself in trouble, so I'll leave it as an exercise to each of you. Where in your life, either individually or as a community, are there moments that might have been filled with more possibilities than met the eye? What possibilities, happy or sad, timid or courageous, silly or deathly serious, lay in wait in that moment? And how did they unfold, and why? There are so many possibilities contained in any moment, indeed. There are so many ways a moment or a sermon can unfold. When I realized that I wanted to talk to you today about the amazing number of possibilities that reside in any moment, I found myself wondering if I might talk to you about process theology. Process theology is a school of theology with many sub-schools. In seminary, many of us are attracted to it, but then as ministers, we decide it's too complicated to explain, so we rarely talk about it once we leave the ivory towers. But for me, this skit and all that it implies is about process theology. So here is the thumbnail sketch of process theology. It will undoubtedly leave process theologians somewhere rolling in their graves. The universe, and perhaps God if you're a theist, is continuously unfolding. We are co-creators of the universe. God might be considered more of a verb than a noun, a process, not an entity, a force rather than a being. In process theology, there is a tremendous amount of creativity in each moment, and we, in our free will, help to harness that creative potential and hopefully to create future moments that are also full of creative potential. Process theology tells you that what you do matters. You are helping to direct the unfolding of the universe. What you do matters, but it's not all that matters. You are a co-creator of the universe, not the creator. What you do matters. What you do in your free will matters. There are so many ways that a moment or a sermon or one's theology can unfold. When I realized that I wanted to talk to you today about the amazing number of possibilities that reside in each moment, I realized that this consideration of moment would be an excellent opportunity to reflect on the concept of consent. In recent years, and especially since the upsurge of the Me Too movement, people have been more aware of the need for consent whenever people interact. Simply put, don't assume what others want. Ask what's okay for them. When we think about it, we are often thinking about it in terms of sexual interactions, but honestly, it plays out in lots of situations. Borrowing someone's book, telling someone else's story, volunteering another person. And you know, my middle grade grandchildren get it. They've been known to blurt out in the middle of a television program, someone there needs to learn about consent. We need to teach our children about consent early. I think about the way that children are sometimes coaxed or even forced to hug a visiting relative, often they really barely know. Auntie Anna is leaving, give her a hug. We think we're teaching them to be respectful. We are not. We are teaching them that their feelings don't matter. We teach them respect by saying, Auntie Anna is leaving. Can you say goodbye? Or would you like to give her a hug? These are important moments. If you find yourself in such a moment, you have a choice. If I were Auntie Anna and someone had been commanded to hug me, there are lots of possibilities. I could say, oh, she doesn't need to give me a hug. I'm just glad we got to visit today. Or today may not be a hugging day. That's just fine. Or, hey, I wonder if a high five might work better today. Oh, no, that's okay too. In that moment, we have an opportunity to help form a child who knows they are respected and who has, as an adult, will respect others too. Now, fast forward to these days, these challenging times of seeing each other after so long apart, as we just heard, hopefully coming soon, especially as we navigate these first stages of togetherness. We are intellectually aware, right, that we have different levels of comfort about masks, about distance, about physical contact, including hugs. And so we adults will need to negotiate consent. I thought about this a lot on my recent trip to visit family. We visited 17 people in 4 states, representing 7 households. We were fully vaccinated, and so were all the adults that we were seeing. We got tested just before we began our journey. In some places, we wore no masks. When we visited my niece, who works in a preschool, at her request, we wore masks. During a brief visit with an old friend, we sat outside and didn't hug. I learned to say, either before arriving or in person, hey, I'm fully vaxxed and recently tested. I'm okay with a hug, are you? Or toward the end of my trip, hey, we've been on the road a while and seen lots of people. I'm thinking maybe no hugs today, okay? We've all heard people say, I'm a hugger, and maybe we've said it ourselves. As we recognize the importance of bodily autonomy for all people, we may change that, awkward as it may be, to, hey, I love hugs and I am ready to share them with anyone who wants. Many of us are past the stages of dating, and so we have not had to fully think through the awkwardness of how consent is managed in today's relationships. Often it would sound awkward to our ears and not spontaneous at all. And yet, you know, the kids are figuring it out. Can we not do the same? And now, and honestly, into our unfolding future, can we be sure that in all of our interactions, we show respect for one another by listening for and asking for consent? There are so many ways a moment or a sermon, one's theology, or a relationship can unfold. When I realized that I wanted to talk to you today about the amazing number of possibilities that reside in each moment, I found I wanted to encourage you to deeper appreciation of that rich potential and the power of your choices to realize that potential. The idea has been expressed in many traditions and in many ways. In the Torah, in Deuteronomy, God says, I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life. Jesuit priest Theology wrote, our duty as men and women is to proceed as if limits to our ability did not exist. We are collaborators in creation. This was written in the early 20th century. Japanese Zen teacher Shinryu Suzuki said, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, But in the expert's mind, there were few. In the beginner's mind, many possibilities. In the expert's, few. By which I understand him to mean, watch out for thinking you know all the answers. Keep your mind always open to new ways of understanding. In our own spiritual tradition, Universalist Clara Barton wrote, I have an almost complete disregard for precedent and a faith in the possibility of something better. It irritates me to be told how things have always been done. I defy the tyranny of precedent. I go for anything new that might improve the past. And transcendentalist Emily Dickinson, who hung out with those early Unitarians on this continent, said it concisely, dwell in possibility. Seeing the possibilities contained in every moment and thus in every encounter, we could become overwhelmed. We don't know what will happen. We could become fearful because the possibility that something bad exists, something bad will happen exists. If you ask if this seat is taken, the answer might be yes. If you ask if you can sit down, the answer might be no. These things are true, by which I mean they are possible. And yet, so much else is possible as well. This is why we need faith and hope and love. Faith that whatever happens in this moment, we can move on to the next. Hope that new and life-giving possibilities are ever emerging in our world. And love. Love that holds our hearts open to the possibilities of this life. There are so many ways the universe can unfold. When I realized that I wanted to talk to you today about the amazing number of possibilities that reside in each moment, I realized that we are all living in an extended moment, a time when the old normal is gone and the new normal has not yet revealed itself. We are called to live in what I have come to call the current normal. Each day we wake up. Some things are open, some things are closed. Some things are happening, others are canceled. Some are online. Some places we go, we mask and distance and stay outside, and sometimes not all that is necessary. This is our normal, our current normal, an extended, sometimes surreal moment that is unfolding in ways we can't yet fully know. This collective moment is made up of many smaller, often personal moments, each of which is filled with possibility, chock full of potential. What are we to do with this bounty? We can be brave. We can open our hearts and our minds. We can cultivate our sense of wonder at all the potential that we have to respond in life-giving, creative, enhancing ways to each challenge, to every moment. There are so many ways a moment can unfold. So many ways our lives can unfold. In the end, all I really wanted to say is captured in those simple words by Emily Dickinson. Dwell in possibility. May it be so.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, spirits draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in this
Our closing words today are by Lindsay Bates. With faith in the creative powers of life, with hope for the future of life in this world, with love for all others who share this life with us, let us go forward together in peace. Our meeting has ended. Let our service begin. Our closing hymn today is Let It Be a Dance. So we will dance and sing our way out of this service. If you are so moved, please join.